Hello everybody, Reverend Dr. right here. In this video, I want to touch base with everybody on the reality of Christian persecution. Now, I know I've covered this topic quite a bit in prior videos, quite a few articles up on spiritualmessiahministries.org and on my Facebook page. But this isn't a topic that can really be forgotten about or be allowed to die down. Not that I enjoy talking about Christian persecution or the persecution of Israelites as specified in the Bible. But people need to be aware that this persecution of what the Bible calls Israel, therefore the Israelites being all those who follow the Word of God, is a very real thing. All around the globe, you have Jews and Christians being persecuted. I believe this past year was a good sign that Christian persecution is on the rise to anybody. If anybody's paying attention to the news, you should hear of the Jews being persecuted against or the Christians being persecuted against all around the world. As was recently stated in an earlier video, I kind of gave proof, not only don't want to say proof, because I didn't really go in depth on it, but I kind of shed some light on the fact, and hopefully it got all of you thinking that Christians are in all actuality Jews. I mean, after all, up until the formation of the Catholic Church, all Christians call themselves Jews. It was only the other Jews that didn't follow the teachings of Christ that gave Christians the name of Christian to separate the followers of Christ from the rest of them. So the Christians did not give themselves the name of Christian. That was given to us by the Jews who didn't follow Christ. So in a sense, in that manner of speaking, Christians are in all actuality Jews. And the fact that Jesus came down for his people, specifically the tribe of Judah, and sent out the disciples for the other tribes of Israel, as well as the Gentiles, any Gentiles that would accept Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, or her Lord and Savior. Right there from that aspect shows that Christians are in all actuality Jews. And there are quite a number of Jews out there that are acknowledging that fact and are telling everybody that Christianity isn't necessarily a separate religion per se. Christianity, in all actuality, is a separate sect of Judaism, much like how Catholicism and all the Protestant faiths are different sects of Christianity. Christianity is just another sect of Judaism. And we need to understand this, mainly because right now, the majority of the persecution that is happening on the Jews and the Christians is being done by the Muslims. And as far as any Muslim apologetics out there that will try to tell you, well, Islam is a religion of peace and they don't recognize Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or any other terrorist organizations as true Muslims, you have to realize that they're lying to you. If you go to numerous websites, I do have a few articles on spiritualmessiahministries.org that go into a little bit of detail, but if you go on such websites as barenakedislam.org or fatwaonislam.com or websites such as that, they show the stats of what is, not only what Islam really is, but it also shows you from the demographics where Islam has moved to, and by population, how Muslim behavior in each individual nation progresses by the population. While they're a major minority, we're going to get what we're seeing here in America, where they're very peaceful, and they're trying to promote Islam as a religion of peace and love, and trying to force mass conversions and bring everybody over to Islam, showing everybody that Islam is the religion of peace and love. And then as the population steps up, as they begin to take over the nation through the populace and just sheer numbers of Muslims outnumbering every other faith, the violence steps up increasingly against the other faiths, particularly against the Jews and the Christians, mainly because the Quran does state that Israel is little Satan, America is big Satan, and all Jews and Christians have to be exterminated. So, and if you look at the news and just look at what's going on around the world, you will see that the Muslims are the biggest players globally that are persecuting the Jews and the Christians, whether they're just attacking them and raping them to full-on slaughter, where they're actually murdering Jews and Christians. I'm not going to get into too much detail of how these murders are taking place, because in some nations their murders are, and what they do to these people is quite graphic. Well, you can Google it, and you'll see all the pictures and whatnot that I'm referring to, if you really want to subject yourself to that type of situation. And I really think you should, just so you can see the reality of what Islam is. But getting back to my main point of Christian persecution. Right now, we have to realize, and not only because we're in end times, and the Bible speaks of such persecution happening to God's children, we must also realize that right now, in a sense, Christians and Jews are allowing this persecution to happen to each other, mainly because a lot of the Orthodox Jews don't recognize the other sects of Judaism, particularly Christianity. And there's a lot of Protestant Christians out there of different denominations within the Protestant faith that don't recognize Judaism and don't recognize that Jesus Christ himself was, in all actuality, a Jew. What I did cover in a prior video to this video. So what really needs to be done here is all of us Christians, for one, need to realize that in all actuality we are Jews. And all the Jews out there need to realize that in all actuality Christians are Jews. Whether you want to call yourselves Messianic Jews, Christians, or what have you, all you Jews out there need to realize that Jesus Christ was the first coming of the Messiah, and Jesus Christ is going to come again. It's in the Bible. The Old Testament does go into great detail and did prophesy Jesus' first coming, as well as does prophesy Jesus' second coming, as well as the New Testament prophesying Jesus' second coming, and Jesus going into detail of how his coming was in fact fulfillment of different Old Testament prophecy. And all the Christians and all the Jews need to realize that we are brothers and sisters. We need to stop warring with each other, so to speak, and realize that we are all one. When God was talking about the Israelites, or Israel, he wasn't talking about the nation that was declared by America in 1948. He was talking about the entire landmass that he gave to his people, which covers a lot more than the land that the nation of Israel currently sits on. and all of us were encompassed as Israel. And those that are descendants, direct descendants of the bloodline of the 12 tribes of Israel, which actually there were 13 tribes, but I'll get into that in more depth in a future video. But anybody who's a direct descendant through the bloodline of any of the original 13 tribes of Israel are Israelites, and any of the Gentiles that view Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior is now also looked at as an Israelite. So we need to stop this individual warring with one another, and we need to realize that we are all brothers and sisters. We need to help each other. We need to band together. If we don't, well, we're going to and if we continue to live in this little box that we constructed around ourselves, for whether it's because you don't want to know the truth, whether it's because you're scared of the truth, or whether you're going to figure, well, it's not happening in my country, when in all actuality it is. Even here in America, the persecution is happening. In prior videos and numerous articles up on ChristianMessiahMinistries.org, I show how the Christian persecution, as well as the Jewish persecution, is in fact happening here in America. Maybe not to the extent that it's happening in the Middle East regions, and now as we're seeing happening in Europe, particularly Germany. I just saw an article how the 1939 era of Germany is happening all over again, only instead of it being via Hitler, who was also Jewish, is being reinstated via the Muslims, which is kind of ironic, only because if you study your history, you will see that Hitler's many viewpoints, in fact, came from the Muslims, and he actually had very close ties to the Grand Mufti at the time, which, unfortunately the Germans should have seen this coming and apparently had not, so now they're reliving the era all over again. But here again, I kind of warned everybody that this was going to happen, and nobody wanted to listen. And there are numerous others out there who have been warning, not just people other across America, but there have been people from Germany and from other nations in Europe that have been warning the people of the world that this was going to happen. And everybody wants to sit with the cotton swabs in their ears and the blinders over their eyes. Well, this video here is supposed to be another message from me to all of you to remove the cotton swabs from your ears and the blinders off your eyes. We need to realize, as I stated in the video prior to this discussing fear, that there is no reason to be fearful of the truth. There is no reason why we need to hide from the truth. There is no reason why we need to continue living in our box. If we continue to live in our box, all we are going to do is allow our own extermination and complete utter annihilation. And we can't allow for that. Granted, I'm sure a lot of you out there can tell me that, okay, well, the Bible does state that these different acts are supposed to take place, but God is going to come down and rescue everybody, and everything's going to be fine in the end. And yes, I'm not going to argue that fact with you. However, there are certain things that must take place in order for prophecy to be fulfilled. Just as Jesus said, His coming here was fulfillment of different Old Testament prophecies, and in order for the rest of the activities to take place as it was written to take place, He unfortunately needed to be crucified upon the cross. And He was, which now set forth other activities to happen to take place up to now. So there are certain things that need to be done in order for other activities to take place. So in order for everything to be okay, as it states in the Bible, there are certain things that, just as Jesus and His apostles did, we must do. If we sit back and live inside our box, nothing's going to be okay. we're going to allow for our own annihilation. What we need to do is we need to realize that we're all brothers and sisters. We must band together with our fellow Christian brethren and with our other Jewish brethren, and we must fight this head on. We must all stand up, and we must all speak out. We must fight this battle full on. We were not told to sit back and relax and everything's going to be okay. We were told to go out and preach the gospel. We were told different things that we must do in order for the second coming to take place. Now, whether you realize it or not, Bible prophecy is going to be fulfilled with or without your particular will for enactment, because God does have a way of making things work. If you are supposed to have a specific purpose in the fulfillment of prophecy, whether you are willingly going to be active in the fulfillment or not, whatever your partaking is supposed to be, it's still going to be fulfilled. And it can be something as menial as buying a house in a particular area. You know, it can be anything. Nonetheless, we need to stand up, we need to speak out, and we need to band together. We are now looking at the possible extinction of the Assyrian peoples, which currently live in northern Iraq, known as Kurdistan. I believe, last time I checked, there's only approximately 400,000 Assyrians left. At that rate, within the next couple of years, the very last Assyrian is going to be killed off. So if that right there should tell everybody that Bible prophecy is going to be fulfilled within the next couple of years, because the Bible does state that the Assyrians do have a key role in the fulfillment of prophecy. And if you look at what's happening in Egypt right now, the Copts are being exterminated out of Egypt. And the Coptic Christians date all the way back to Jesus' time. I believe it was St. Mark. I believe it was St. Mark that set up the very first Coptic church in Egypt. And was it Afghanistan, I believe, no longer has a Christian population. I believe Libya is now rid of their Christian population. There's a few other nations that have been rid of their Christian population. Other nations are being rid of their Christian populations. As I said, Egypt is one of those nations. We are now seeing Jews being persecuted in Germany, once again, as they were back in Hitler's era. Here in America, just to make it hit home, that's clear across the globe. Granted, the Muslims haven't gotten as violent here in America as they're beginning to get in Europe. We are already seeing the anti-Christian, anti-Jewish, pure anti-Semitic type propaganda being spewed by different federal agencies and by different hate groups, completely on the rise. I mean, it's like no tomorrow. There's numerous different Nazi organizations that are stepping up the game and are resurfacing with their anti-Semitic hatred. And as I said, there's different federal agencies, including the DHS, that are depicting the white Christian male as the terrorist. And everybody's giving the Muslims special rights. So it's not just happening in the Middle East, it's not just happening in Europe, it's happening here in America too. It is happening everywhere. Whether you let you realize it or not, Christians are being persecuted. even here in America, as I pointed out in a prior video, Jews are beginning to be persecuted against at an extremely high, accelerated rate. And we really can't continue to look past this. Any and all Christian pastors or ministers, I should say, that's watching this video, I'm urging you all to please, not that I'm suggesting you should speak about it every week, but at least once a month. You don't even have to do a sermon on it. Just give a brief 5-minute to 10-minute briefing on all open persecution that's going on around the globe, and bring your congregations together in a prayer for the assistance and the protection of the Christians and the Jews around the world. Put a fundraiser together. I'm working on organizing one right now through my ministry, and once I have all the details worked out and how exactly I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna try to put fundraisers together, pull funds together to help out different Christians out in Egypt and Nigeria. You know, some of these churches that just got blown up in Nigeria get back up on their feet. And any and all Christians or Jews that are watching this video, I'm urging all of you to get out there, just preach the gospel to everybody, and realize that whether you be Christian or was classified as Jewish, because as I said, technically Christianity is Judaism, it's another set of Judaism. So whether you're Christian or Jewish, understand that whether you be Christian or you be Jewish, we are all brothers and sisters. So go and visit other denominations, churches. Go visit the Jewish synagogues. Urge your pastor to put a community activity together where you round up different congregations from different churches and any local synagogues, where you all come together and have some kind of event, whether it be a barbecue or anything, where you all come together and just show the support for each other and help each other realize that we are all family. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all looking out for each other, and that whether the persecution be abroad or whether you be feeling the persecution in your local area, that you have each other to rely on, that you have each other to go to when you're in need. It is really important. We cannot allow ourselves to forget about the Christian persecution that's going on. We cannot allow ourselves to make believe we don't see it. We cannot allow ourselves to make believe we don't hear it. And we cannot prevent ourselves from speaking about it. Again, I said, it's not like I want you to preach about it every week, but at least once a month, make an effort to bring awareness to somebody of persecution that's going on around the world. And at least once a month, make it an effort within your church to hold a community event where it's not just your church, but it's a network of the different churches and synagogues in your community. And each month, a different church or different synagogue will be the host. And so let's get this feel. Now we are all brothers and sisters. We are family. And as a family, and as brothers and sisters, we can rely on each other. So when one of us needs help, we can go to the other for help. And we really need to realize that Christian persecution and Jewish persecution is on the rise. And by not talking about it, by pretending we don't see it, and by pretending we don't hear it, it is not going to make it go away. The only thing that will stop it is by us banding together, Christian and Jew alike, by banding together, realizing that we're all brothers and sisters, working together, and voicing out. The only thing that's going to stop this is by showing to those that are persecuting us that we are not going to tolerate it. That they can try as hard as they may to stop us from preaching the Word of God. They can try as hard as they may to kill us off and to erase our existence out of the history books. But our faith is binding us together, and our faith is stronger than the fear they're trying to implement in us. And our support for each other and our faith in God is going to put an ultimate stop to their persecution, and will ultimately put them in eternal damnation, and will ultimately put us in eternal everlasting life in the new world with God the Father and Jesus Christ. We need to take a stand against this persecution. By everybody turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to the Christian persecution and Jewish persecution that's going on, and that's what's allowing these nations in the Mideast to completely annihilate their Christian and Jewish populace and their nations, and whereas allowing the current Jewish and Christian persecution that's going on in the different European nations right now. And if people continue turning a deaf ear and a blind eye to what's happening here in America, it is only going to allow the persecution here in America to get worse. And it might not be on your doorstep just yet here in America. Based on what I've seen so far, that it isn't even necessarily on my doorstep just yet. But I have seen reports of it happening in California. I have seen reports of it happening in New Hampshire. I have seen reports of it happening in New York. I have seen reports of it happening in Minnesota. And I've also seen reports of it happening in Arkansas. And I believe I've also seen reports of it happening in Texas. So it is not like that the Christian persecution and the Jewish persecution is not in America. It is here. And if we continue turning a deaf if we continue turning a deaf ear and a blind eye to it, we are literally allowing for it to get worse. So, as I said, the only thing that we can do to put a stop to this is to take the cotton swabs out of our ears, remove the blinders from our eyes, and speak up and speak out against the persecution. Band together. Realize that yes, the Baptists may not have everything in common with the Lutherans, may not have anything in common with the Mormons, may not have anything in common with the Catholics, may not have anything in common with the Messianic Jews, may not have anything in common with the Orthodox Jews. But let's put the denominational and the sectarian beliefs behind us. Let's have understanding that we are all Jews, we are all Israelites, we are all brothers and sisters, and let's start acting as the family that we are. Let's start working together, and let's show that God is just as powerful as He was a couple thousand years ago, and His family, His children, is just as faithful, and His family is just as strong as we ever were. And let's start putting a stop to this persecution. If we don't stand up now, we're going to be looking at the possible annihilation and extermination of the Christian and Jewish population globally, and the eventual removal from the history books. I really don't want to believe that that's the possible future that we're looking at. But unless people come to the realization that we are all brothers and sisters, Christian and Jew alike, we are all brothers and sisters, we are all Israelites, and we are all family, we are all following the same one true God, we are all the children of God, and we realize that we have to band together, we need to stick together, and we need to stand up and speak out against this kind of stuff. That is the future. That is the future that we're looking at. So again, I'm going to tell you all that I don't want necessarily, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you need to speak about this every week, but at least once a month. Let's just go over the fact of where there's persecution happening, whether it be abroad or here at home. Let's lead our congregations in a prayer for the guidance and the safety of our brethren. And let's start, working together with the other churches and synagogues in our area. And let's start showing the world that God's family is just as strong as we ever were. For all of you Christians and Jews out there that are looking for an organization to be part of and help organize different events in your area, you can always take into consideration the Spiritual Truth Movement and Coalition. I did a video on that about the organization that is literally called Spiritual Truth Movement and Coalition. There's also a page dedicated to the Spiritual Truth Movement and Coalition, both on Facebook as well as spiritualmessiahministries.org. So you can go there for more information on the organization. But the Spiritual Truth Movement and Coalition is a growing organization of Christians and Jews alike, showing support for each other, both in their native lands as well as abroad, and are using the organization to help create a safety zone, so to speak, where they know that if they need to go someplace to feel safe and secure, that there are people local to them that they can turn to. So no matter where you are in the world, you know that there's somebody there that will help you out. And that's what God's family is supposed to be all about. So let's not continue turning a deaf ear to a blind eye to this persecution. Let's step outside the box. Let's realize this is going on. And let's start realizing that we are all brothers and sisters. We need to start standing together. We need to start standing up, and we need to start speaking out. This is crucial. Our very existence depends on that. Right down to the line as far as conversions. Everybody's complaining that the Christian and Jewish faith both are declining in number. Well, why is that? Everybody's converting to Islam. Why? Because Islam, no matter what nation you're in, Islam is giving off the image that they're all mighty, they're all strong, and they're portraying that very family-like image. Well, I say it's about time that God's children do the same. Apparently, somewhere along the lines, we lost that. Well, let's come back together as a family, and let's show that we're not only as strong of a family as Islam, but that we're an even stronger family than that of Islam. And let's start bringing our brethren back home to God. We need to bring our brethren back to God, and we need to bring our family back together as a whole. Like I said, you have different sectarian groups and different denominational groups that all separated themselves from each other. And we need to reattach those sectarian and denominational lines back together again. Let's stop dividing God's family. Let's come back together as one united family, and let's start bringing the lost brethren back to God and back into our family. Let's not allow ourselves to do what everybody wants done, that being not thinking about and not paying attention to the persecution of our people. It is not wrong to worry about our people. What is wrong is to not worry about our people and not to mention what's happening to our brethren. We have every right to speak of what is happening to our brethren and to lead our congregations in prayers and support for our brethren. So let's do so. And let's reunite the family of God. Let's reunite Israelites all over the nation, all over the world. Let's bring the global Israelites back together into the one family. As I said, I'm not trying to, harp on the Christian persecution deal. I just don't want to forget about it, and I don't want any of you to forget about it. If you forget about it, all that's going to be doing is allow it to get worse and escalate until finally there are no more Jews or Christians to be persecuted against. I don't want to see that day. I want to know that Christians and Jews, not only today, but also tomorrow, are safe, and they can rely on each other for that safety and security. Not that they have to keep on living in fear of what might happen to them in the outside world. So, as I said, at least once a month, just, reiterate for people and educate them on the Christian persecution that's going on. Let's lead your congregations in a prayer of guidance and support for our international brethren. Let's try to organize localized community gatherings monthly between the different Christian churches and Jewish synagogues. And every month, decide on a different church or synagogue that will host the event for that month. And let's reunite the family of God. And on that note, I will leave you all. Please think about what I said. And I will see you in the next video. Before I go, I just want to say again, as I said in videos prior, if you have anything that I would like to see me discuss, just simply state so. I will get to it. I will cover it without a problem. My contact information is on spiritualmessiahministries.org. I will leave a link to the website as well as my Twitter and my Facebook in the description of the video down below. If you would like to talk to me about anything on a personal note, that's fine. You can just contact me. I will discuss whatever that matters with you. Any topics you want me to go into depth with, just let me know, and I'll cover your particular topic. And let's keep the truth spreading. I'm here for the sole purpose of preaching the truth, and for all of you. If you have any questions, please ask. I'm going to cover anything in depth. Just state so. I have already told you how you can contact me through the website, Facebook, Twitter. I'll leave the links. And I will see you in the next video. God bless.